Welcome, everyone, to the last IRB training session of the spring 2026 semester on the roles and responsibilities of the principal investigator. By the end of our time today, attendees should understand the core regulatory and ethical roles the principal investigator, or PI, fulfills, identify primary responsibilities of the PI across the study lifecycle, recognize compliance risks common to studies at USU, and apply expectations from USU's Human Research Protection Program to current and future studies. This is being provided by the Institutional Review Board and the Human Research Protection Program, this training. So the Institutional Review Board is the committee that is charged with the ethical review, revision, and approval of research involving human participants at Utah State University. Members of USU's Institutional Review Board further the university's research mission by prospectively reviewing proposed research to human participants and to ensure the protection of those research participants. To do that, we apply the principles of justice, beneficence, and respect for persons in all of USU's research portfolio involving people. The IRB is a part of the Human Research Protection Program. The Human Research Protection Program is the umbrella within which the IRB sits, but so do others, including, I'll point out most prominently for this training, researchers. Researchers are ultimately responsible for carrying out the work in a way that complies with the terms of the IRB's review, ensures adequate resources and training, and takes proactive steps to ensure the health and welfare of research participants. All of this is overseen by the Vice President for Research, and the IRB, as I mentioned, is one component there, as is the Human Research Protections Office, which is where I am situated. But today we're going to be focusing on researchers and specifically the principal investigator. So why does any of this matter? We have a human research protection program at Utah State University, as we just went over, and researchers are the most impactful part of the HRPP. They are the ones who are actively interfacing with research participants, overseeing those studies to ensure that they're being implemented in a way that is consistent with what the IRB approved, and putting as a primary consideration the well-being of research participants. Research participants are trusting research teams with their information, with their selves, with parts of them, their experiences. And so in order to make sure that that relationship is reciprocal, the PI has a strict duty of care toward research participants as the study is ongoing and as they contribute to knowledge creation that is being led by the PI. We all have the shared goal of protecting rights and welfare of research participants. But the PI is in charge of leading that effort when a study is ongoing in real time. So let's start with who can be a PI. Every research institution is required to identify who can serve as a principal investigator. And here at Utah State University, a PI, in terms of human subjects research, is someone that the institution has delegated a research responsibility to via a formalized role statement. Like it or not, most of us are employees of a large employer, and our employer, by and large, gets to tell us how we spend our time. And so if research is not one of the things that the institution has allocated your time for, then it's not something that you can engage with the appropriate level of oversight and resources and time that is needed to serve as a PI for a human subjects research project. As we just went over, it's a big responsibility. Participants are trusting you with their parts of themselves sometimes, their safety, their experiences, their information. And it's our role to make sure that a PI is actually equipped to carry that out at a high level before things begin. So we have looked to formalized role statements as evidence of that. Somebody with oversight authority, again, looking at role statements, it must be somebody who's in a position to oversee the others that are on the study. And so often we see that in a PI and student or mentor and student relationship. And it must be someone with appropriate institutional access to resources necessary to safely carrying out the research. If, for example, you are running a study where you need access to certain exercise equipment, but you don't have a budget to purchase that equipment because you are a student, then that would mean that that's not a study you should be overseeing. That's more of a role of a PI, a faculty member with a budget or a grant or access to departmental funds or the ability to carry out an MOU with campus recreation for the use of certain facilities and equipment. So somebody who has the ability to enter into those contractual arrangements on behalf of the institution is critical to put in place. And so, because by and large, students cannot engage in those things, Utah State University has determined that students cannot serve as a PI. And in fact, again, if you don't have all of these pieces in your role statement, then you also can't serve as a PI regardless of your status. So these are the sorts of things that we're looking for, and faculty roles are by and large those which encompass all of these important aspects. What is a principal investigator's core role? A PI is responsible for all aspects of the study. They are responsible for compliance with all IRB requirements. They make decisions about the protection of research participants at the forefront of their decision making. And delegation is allowed. I don't want to pretend that we require the PI to diligently adhere to do every single part of every study. That's not realistic. So delegation is allowed, but accountability is not transferable. A PI is responsible for shaping an ongoing research project in a way that allows the buck to stop with them. The accountability for carrying out that project is ultimately theirs, even though some tasks within the broader project are appropriate for delegation. So we'll talk a little bit about operational responsibilities throughout the project lifecycle next. Before a study begins, PIs are responsible for making sure that IRB approval, exemption, or reliance is in place, that the study team is fully trained, and by that I don't just mean city training, that the approved protocol represents the reality of the study plan, and that the PI has the ability to oversee all aspects of the study. So let's look at some practical questions that a PI can ask themselves about getting ready to begin a study. And if you are not a PI, some questions that you can also address as a student to assist your PI in making sure that they're prepared for the implementation of this study. So some practical questions. Have I factored my students' timeline into account when helping them consider a project? This is one of the biggest sources of consternation that we see as an IRB. Really cool, really ambitious projects for master's students who are on tight timelines. Something like getting school district approval, which is required in the state of Utah, can take upwards of 3 months, depending on when you request it. And so if you're on a really tight timeline, say you've just finished enough coursework to begin to think about your research project and what you have remaining is about 9 months, then perhaps a study that requires school district approval would not be the best way to spend some of those months. Another way of thinking about this, honors capstone projects, for example, have even tighter timelines most of the time. So staying within the exempt categories of review might be a priority for that principal investigator. Our exempt protocols are approved in a median of 3 business days for the last 2 years. And so that is a really fast approval. If you have a student who needs to propose and carry out a project all within 1 year, perhaps the exempt categories for approval are a more appropriate place for that honors student to spend their time. Because part of the mentorship process is also teaching students how to work through the IRB process. So it's not as though it's going to be just the median of those 3 days even for training a student about what it is the IRB does, why this is important, how we should be thinking about concepts like privacy and confidentiality in the context of an approved human subjects research protocol. All of that comes before the protocol even gets filed. Doing city training if they haven't done city training, that's another couple of days at least. Getting the study ready to be implemented and doing practice runs. All of those things take time and are things that a really well completed and thoughtfully laid out study would do. And so again, just being really cognizant of your student's timeline or your own timeline if you are a student, and thinking about realistically whether you can accomplish what you need to accomplish. All those things I mentioned are just front-end items, right? So once you have the data, then it's time to analyze it and write up the project. And all of that also takes time. And you may need your protocol open during that time. And so considering whether, that 3-day approval period versus the 21-day approval period for an expedited protocol versus the 2-month approval period for a full board protocol, like what of those is realistic for your project or your student's project? Another question to ask, have I trained or verified the training for all relevant study procedures beyond city training? As I mentioned, I'm not just talking about city training in the process, in the training process. Um, it might include things like, hey, we're collecting data in REDCap and my student has never used REDCap before. Having time to engage in that training and making sure that both you and your student can realistically administer that instrument in the event you're at a conference and something goes wrong and your student needs to be able to fix that. Ensuring that that training is in place is a critical piece. What about using FERPA protected records in education? You should have worked through the annual FERPA training on behalf of USU's institutional learning management system if you're going to use FERPA protected information in research. Has that been done? And did my student say it was done, or have I verified that it's been done? Did I receive a training certificate? Did I look in the Aggie Learn Blue system to make sure that it is in fact completed? If somebody needs to have CPR training for the protocol that I'm planning to carry out, have I verified that that actually is in place and that it's not expired? All of those pieces are really important to carrying out safe and thoughtful research with human participants, not just the completion of the city training. Does the protocol reflect the reality of how my student or how my lab works? Or in gaining IRB approval, did I just say what I thought would be easiest to get through the IRB? So much easier to have your protocol reflect your reality than to have the IRB find out after the fact that the protocol is not reflective of what it is you're carrying out. Many times when the latter is the case, the study needs to be paused while the IRB works through its reportable events process. And again, if you are overseeing a student project on a tight timeline, that can really throw a wrench into things. While we do have some hard and fast standards in place for how certain aspects of projects get carried out, on the whole, the IRB is pretty flexible in terms of making sure a standard is met. We have a standard, and there are lots and lots of different ways that a research team might meet it. And so being sure that before you implement your project, the reality of how it will be done matches what is on paper on file with us. We'll save a lot of time and consternation on the back end should the IRB find out that that in fact is not the case. Finally, are things structured in such a way that I can readily access any information I need to answer questions about the conduct of this study? We'll go over this later, but any sentence that begins with, oh, well, I don't know because my student, that sentence has to stop. The buck stops with the principal investigator. Accountability stops with the principal investigator. And it is their responsibility to make sure that they have systems and processes in place that allow for them to be checking in on the accountability for the completion of the overall project, not just when the IRB asks a question, going to find out a response. While a study is ongoing, so we talked a little bit about beforehand, while it's ongoing, PIs have responsibility for the following: ensuring that the terms of IRB approval are being adhered to, so making sure that the plans that were put into place are actually what's happening on the ground, maintaining oversight of the study team, so having a plan in place for when and how you're going to check in on things, ensuring compliance with all non-IRB requirements. If this is a federally funded project, you have a data management plan. Are you making sure that data are being collected and stored in a way that allows you to eventually effectuate what you said you would do in your data management plan? Does your sponsor have findings, review requirements, or reports that are due, or check-ins that must be completed? If so, is everything being done in a way that allows you to adhere to those and meet those deliverables? And then, of course, budgets, things like paying participants on time, making sure that if there's travel involved, your study team is getting paid out for that travel. All of those pieces are really important compliance issues that are not necessarily IRB requirements, but which, if dropped, might become part of the purview of the IRB down the road. And then finally, having a plan to communicate with the IRB as needed. Things change, and I will tell you that the studies that we are most likely to look in on as a part of our post-approval monitoring program are the ones where it's been sitting for a long period of time and there have been no changes, no updates, no communication. That means probably someone needs to check in on those studies. And so communicating with the IRB and keeping your study up to date is also an indication to us that it is in fact being actively monitored as it is ongoing. So again, some questions to ask yourselves about whether the PI is carrying out their responsibilities as the study is ongoing. Am I knowledgeable about what my approved protocol says, or did I delegate the whole thing to my student and I just hit submit when they told me to? How, in what ways, and at what frequency do I need to monitor the study to ensure that I'm maintaining appropriate oversight? Again, delegation is allowed, delegation is expected. But there is a component of this which needs to be monitored by the PI. And so having a plan in place as the study is ongoing and carrying out that plan for how you're going to oversee the conduct of the study is very important. What changes might I need to make to the protocol for a better participant experience? We all have amazing plans in place, and then there's the reality of something that kicks in, right? There's an event on campus for a day that I have a participant scheduled, and I can no longer instruct them to park in whatever, but I already sent them instructions about what to do, and those instructions were a part of the IRB protocol. And so do I need to make changes for a better participant experience? I've done 7 informed consent processes. My participants hate the Qualtrics informed consent process. A lot of people are opening it and they're dropping out more than we would expect just by virtue of seeing the study and thinking I don't want to participate. What is it about that experience that isn't working well? What can I fix for a better participant experience? That probably would require an amendment with the IRB. Finally, in terms of communicating with the IRB, I'm surprised by something that happened or something that I learned. Should I communicate with the IRB? Probably. If you, for example, are surprised at how long your study actually took. You told participants in the informed consent document to expect a 90-minute appointment, but holy crap, that piece of equipment took forever to calibrate and get situated appropriately. Okay. Is that a one-time thing, or is that something that maybe participants should be told to expect moving forward? If the latter, communicating with the IRB through an amendment or a reportable event or whatever is appropriate for the change that you're learning about, is something that again helps you keep your protocol up to date so that we don't get a complaint from a participant that's like, hey, look, I planned for 90 minutes and I was there for 3 hours. I expect to be compensated accordingly. Those are kinds of outreach that we receive. And so making sure that throughout the life cycle of the study, you're planning to keep participants informed and by communicating with the IRB about changes that need to happen is a really important part of the compliance process. Modifications. Again, changes happen, life happens during the conduct of a study. And we expect there to be modifications to protocols, especially ones that are, planning to last more than 3 months. An anonymous online survey, one time, the study's going to be active for 2 months. Sure, we may never see an amendment to that study. If your study is going to be active for 2 years, we're probably going to expect to see some changes. So principal investigators are responsible for monitoring their study in a manner that permits them to identify a needed change. So for example, you're getting ready to launch a survey and you realize, hey, we had our demographic survey at the end, which is often a best practice because we allow people to skip questions and we don't want them to feel like something we already asked about would color the choices that they're making throughout the survey instrument. So, but we have found that we want to change that. There's something that is important about moving demographics up in the survey. And in combination with other information, that might render a person identifiable. But we've already got the demographics approved. But maybe we just want to change the structure of that. Do I need to talk to the IRB? Probably, especially if a demographic might make somebody identifiable, for example. That's a change that impacts your approval category. Different levels of approval get applied to different structures, and even within exemptions, we have to make a selection when we approve a protocol about whether it's an anonymous study or whether it's identifiable, and it's just the case that the study team is taking really good care of those identifiers. So that matters. If you're carrying a study forward under a different approval criterion than the one we gave you, that could impact your ability to move forward with that study in publication or use for other research projects or collaborations across institutions. So it's really critical that you stay in communication and up to date with the IRB as your project changes. I want to highlight especially these last two. Our IRB places a really high premium on informed consent, being thoughtfully designed, being meaningfully communicative. And so where we find that information that the study team has that's relevant to the informed consent document or process hasn't been factored in to your protocol plan, that's a place where we're very likely to look more closely at the study as a whole. The PI also has reporting responsibilities, so they must promptly report or directly oversee the prompt reporting in the case of wanting to train a student to work through a reportable event. Things like deviations, adverse events, information regarding new or increased risks to participants, unexpected issues, and closures, cancellations, and completions. So studies complete, ready for closure. A study's complete, it's not quite ready for closure, but it maybe needs to be replaced. We'll talk about all of those in just a moment. So all of these things are things that a PI is responsible for reporting. And in fact, our systems generally require that the PI be the ones to report those. The PI must be the one to submit amendments, renewals, protocols to our office. And so making sure as a PI that you're adequately informed about all of these things allow you to promptly report and get all of these issues resolved quickly. Where the PI doesn't have the required information, that process can certainly take much, much longer, and that may be time that your study is paused. So at the end there, we had completions, closures, items like that. One of the biggest lapses that we see is that the study has expired. So here we're just going to talk a little bit about the expectations for an expiring or a continuation review date that is upcoming for a protocol. Principal investigators have the responsibility for communicating about a project as it winds down or as it approaches its end date. So these differ based on the type of IRB approval that you have. Full board protocols must be renewed annually. It is the PI's responsibility to ensure that renewal occurs at the IRB meeting that most immediately precedes the study review date. So even if your protocol will not expire for 6 years, the expiration date is 6 years from now, it still needs to be renewed every year. And it needs to be renewed by the IRB, which means it needs to be renewed at a time frame that allows for the IRB to review additional information about the study and decide whether it warrants another year of approval. PIs receive emails with specific instructions for full board protocols 35 days prior to the required review date, and then those reminders continue until the IRB meeting that would have allowed that to be renewed has passed. Status reports for full board protocols are due no later than 1 week prior to the IRB meeting where the renewal will be performed. Expedited protocols. Those must be reviewed at least every 5 years. However, most studies at USU do not plan to take more than 5 years. So, as a result, the study end date is what you say it is. So you get to set your own end dates for an expedited protocol as long as it is within 5 years. This is an issue we run into constantly. My expedited protocol is going to be complete in 4 months. Probably not. Give yourself 2 years. Why not? Give yourself plenty of time. If recruitment takes a longer time than you were anticipating, or your analysis takes longer than you think, and your work is with identifiable information, go ahead and give yourself plenty of time. I mean, make it realistic. So if you are a master's student with a project, maybe don't list a 5-year time frame. We don't expect to still see you here in 5 years. But give yourself the most time that makes good sense for your personnel structure with the university. Some people think there's some magic 3-year rule with the IRB and destroying identifying information. It's not the case. We do want to see it destroyed at the earliest possible opportunity, but you tell us what the earliest possible opportunity is. Okay, so give yourself upfront that amount of time. If during the course of your study, you extend your study end date, we will still perform a check-in at your original end date. We just want to make sure that everything is in line and proceeding smoothly because something happened that required that extension to occur. So we do a check-in called a renewal at that original time, but your study will not expire until you say it will. For exempt protocol, oh, and again, status reports must be in no later than 1 working week prior to your study's renewal or expiration date. If you're just going to close your study, we only require 3 business days. Okay, exempt protocols expire again at your stated date or 5 years. However, because they are exempt, we do not perform a check-in if you need to extend your date. So exemptions can have up to 5 years. After 5 years, another exemption needs to be filed, but at any point, you just file an amendment to keep your exempt protocol up to date. So you can take up to 5 years for any of those exemptions. And then we have a process for relying on other IRBs. So if you're working on the same project across IRBs, you have a reliance agreement in place. That expires when the project expires at the reviewing institution. Those dates are set by them. We will check in on it with you every 2 years just to make sure that the reliance agreement needs to remain active. So, okay, you've run into something we see 1, 2 times a week. Your study expires. What do I do when my study expires? Stop. Stop working on that study. Even if you can close it, stop working on that study. So if you receive an expiration and you're like, oh, well, it's ready to close, I'm just going to go ahead and close it or keep working on it. Do not do that. You must close it out. So many times, folks think, oh, I can just close this out, I'm done. But it's not actually ready for closure. So how do you know if you can close it out? We have a website entirely dedicated to helping folks make a decision about whether a project can be closed. irb.usu.edu/closures. And so that will tell you whether you can close it out. But if your study happens to not be ready to be closed out and you continue working on it, then you get to find yourself working under a whole other set of our standard operating procedures. And these ones are not fun. So this would be our non-compliance process if you continue work on a study that does in fact require a protocol. And in the interim, as a PI, you would find that you cannot file new protocols until your old ones are replaced or appropriately closed out. So please close out your protocols when they are ready to be closed out. If they're not ready to be closed out, please make sure that you extend them in time. Once a protocol expires in Kuali, there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. There's no magic button we can hit to make it active again. Kuali expires that protocol. That's it. It's gone. It's done forever. Much easier to file amendments and status reports to keep a protocol up to date than it is to open an entirely new protocol. Okay, let's talk about some practical tips for operationalizing all of those things that we've talked about. So for PIs, be both supportive and realistic. Students have really cool project ideas, and some of them are not always the greatest project ideas for someone who is still in training and on a tight timeline. There is often an initial stage of a product or a project that can be completed that can help a student through the degree requirements without putting in a very unrealistic plan for a student's successful completion of their graduate program in particular. And so even though the whole project might not be appropriate for something like a master's thesis, if you can break that down into smaller steps toward a broader project and have that student successfully complete their program of study on time, and then continue working with them on a broader research project, that is going to be both supportive and realistic of what your student needs to accomplish before they can graduate. Another practical tip, as a PI, start the Qualtrics instrument, start the REDCap instrument, start the box folder for the project so that you as the PI are the owner, and then add collaborators. That way you're never in a position to not be able to speak to the status of your study. Centralize study communication. So one of the things that we find when we audit protocols is that a student has done all of the communicating with participants and the PI has no way to look in on that. no way to make sure that a participant has been told correct information or even that their questions have been answered. So a lot of participant complaints we get is, hey, I've reached out like 6 times to the study team about my compensation and I haven't heard anything back. If you as the PI don't have any way of monitoring communication about the study, you wouldn't even know that's a problem until we're getting involved. One of the best ways to study or to centralize study communication is a $5 investment in an orphan email account through USU that allows you to create an account that can be shared among the same group of people, the approved study staff. So, for example, IRB at usu.edu. Our office pays $5 a year to maintain that account, and it's one where we can centralize communication. So if you have a study on allergens in the springtime, USU allergy study at usu.edu could be an orphan account that you create, and it keeps those communications separate from your communication. So in the event we are in an audit and you can't find something, I'm not looking over your shoulder while you're digging through your own email account. Everything is in one centralized account that only deals with that piece of information for your workload. As a PI, when you're delegating things to your study staff, show me where you're storing this. Show me how you pull a completed informed consent document off of Qualtrics. Show me how you're going to implement this data collection procedure. If you're delegating, having your students show you that they know how to do the thing, where to store the thing, is a great way to ensure that your delegation is going to result in still successful oversight of that aspect of the study. Monitor often, but especially at first. Those initial pushes are where you find the biggest issues. Bots and fraudulent respondents to an online survey, or that an informed consent process just really isn't working for some of your participants, or that your students are scanning and storing these informed consent documents, but they're not doing it in the box file that you've created. So monitor often, but those early stages, that initial push for recruitment is where it's going to matter the most in terms of helping your study team structure a successful set of research procedures. Delegate, but apply expertise as well. So one of the things that we've been seeing a lot of lately is fraudulent responses in student-led projects. But a lot of the PIs we work with know that this is a likely outcome, especially for projects where compensation is listed in recruitment material. And so if you're communicating often about how the study should be carried out, you would know, for example, to caution a student against posting to Facebook an anonymous online study that pays $15 for completion. That's going to get spammed. It's going to get spammed 100% of the time. And that may be the first time a student investigator ever deals with that, but as a PI, you probably know how to avoid these things a little bit more thoroughly than many students. And so applying your expertise to that study and not just telling a student, yeah, do whatever you want, I'm here to support you, allows that student to more successfully complete their project. Conduct your own audit. If you want the audit checklist that we have, and you know what? In fact, we'll add it to the website after this training is posted. We'll just add it as a link to one of the resources you can access. Conduct your own audit of your own study. Work through and make sure that you could, if we came auditing, that you would be prepared to supply all of the information that is needed. And finally, coordinate dissertation and thesis committee needs. We see a lot of student projects that need to shift, a quarter of the way through, halfway through on some important dimension, but it's an important dimension that the committee approved. And so in that way, it becomes kind of a contract between the student and the committee and the graduate school. And so as those changes occur, just like if you were a PI that needed a change and your program officer were at the federal level and they had a different study peer reviewed, they might need to okay that change before you could just implement it. Help your students coordinate those kinds of changes through their committee structures in the same way that sponsored programs would help you to communicate it back to a program officer. So where does it most often go wrong? Where do PI responsibilities fall flat in the audits that we conduct? Poor team oversight, and especially regarding city training. We will not approve an amendment or a renewal for a study that has an expired city training for any study staff member. So putting mechanisms in place to make sure that city training is valid for all study team members is critical. We'll talk about some tips on the next slide. Expired protocols. Oh my gosh, expired protocols. This is where we see a lot of balls getting dropped. And then there's a pause until we work out whether that study can be closed or most often needs a replacement protocol filed. Not filing amendments. So learning that your study team has decided to take this recruitment approach instead of that one, or put this set of questions in instead of the ones that were approved. Those are where we spend a lot of our non-compliance investigation time. And so just getting those amendments filed before you implement that change, one, is how it's supposed to be done anyway. But two, if you're conducting your own audits and doing your monitoring, then you'll be able to do that with ample time to carry out your study procedures. The modal amendment with our office is done in one business day. The ones where that's not the case are ones where ancillary reviews are required. So where we have to go out to another office to ask a question about one of their compliance areas. That's maybe 10 amendments a year in the 800 amendments a year we receive. So almost every other amendment is done within one business day. So don't let time be something that gets in your way of getting that amendment filed. Not being able to produce information about the study. That is another of our big holdups. So a PI waits until the very last day to submit a renewal request for their study. And some of the information provided is inconsistent with the approved protocol. So the PI said, we didn't collect any identifying information, but the study will collect email addresses and phone numbers and addresses because they're paying the participant. Well, then we're going to check back in and we're going to say, hey, this doesn't comport with what we understand about the study. And can you tell us what's going on here? And where a PI can't produce that information, that protocol may well lapse in the amount of time it takes. And then we're at the expired protocol stage where we need to review a new protocol and where nothing can happen until that new protocol is approved. Finally, just poor planning for study timeline. One of our most common reportable event, so something that didn't go along with what the protocol plan was, regards accrual, so mostly under accrual in a research project. But our next most common is that you didn't destroy identifiers at the time you said you would destroy identifiers. Again, just not giving yourself enough time. So give yourself a generous amount of time to complete the study procedures. Again, we would like you to destroy identifiers at your earliest opportunity in general, but that doesn't mean put an unrealistic amount of time on your own study expectations to get that done. Because then we have to potentially even have you notify participants that it didn't happen depending on the sensitivity of the information involved and the commitments that were made to participants in your study. So again, with your timeline, giving yourself plenty of time will save you a lot of work on the back end. So some of the practical tips to avoid those things we just talked about. Set calendar reminders for your study team study training, or even better, set automatic revocation of access to study records at the same time that that person's study training expires. Box allows you to share and remove sharing at an identified time frame. Qualtrics does as well. And so as the PI, if you are revoking access to those pieces of information at the time that the person's training expires, then you have a process by which they'll check back in with you about accessing those items to either show you that they have completed city training or as a reminder to even themselves that they need to complete city training. Close or replace your protocols on time. Again, expired protocols mean no new protocols can be filed. And if there's a pattern of that, it could potentially mean non-compliance as well. Again, conduct your own audit of your protocol. We'll put our audit checklists on the website after this training. But if you don't want to do the full audit, pick one protocol heading. Pick the confidentiality heading within your protocol. That's just one section with like 5 questions. And audit your own study to see if what you wrote in your protocol is in fact what's being carried out by you and by your research team. Any response that begins with to an IRB question that begins with my student, stop there. Fix whatever gap is preventing you from being able to go get the answer to that question. If you cannot speak to your study's status, then that's an information gap you have that as a PI you need to fill. And again, giving yourselves plenty of time for study completion. If you can't give yourself a padded timeline, so if you are so tight that you're like, man, I'd really like to, give myself 5 months with these identifiers, but oof, I'm just not sure I'll be able to do that, then reconsider whether that study is appropriate for that team at that juncture. Okay, we're going to move into some case studies. So I hope that you can see this poll question. You are a student researcher. This morning, you checked your email and you learned that you received a notice from the IRB that your study has expired. You have a participant scheduled for today. What needs to happen? File an amendment to extend the study end date. Those usually only take 1 day. Run the participant, explaining that you'll get them a new consent form and email it to them maybe tomorrow. Contact the principal investigator for guidance. Contact the participant to reschedule them. File a replacement protocol because maybe it can get approved today. Check the data you've already collected. Maybe you've got enough data and you can close the study. Let's see. I don't see any responses, and so I'm a little worried that the poll is not live. Oh, we're starting to get responses. And this is, you can select as many as you want there. So there's not maybe one right answer. So let's see. We only have one response. It is half of the correct response. So contact the participant to reschedule them is the right response. And you also will want to contact your principal investigator for guidance. So you both reschedule the participant and contact the PI. Oh, there are 3 questions before you can submit. Okay. Well then, question 2. You are the principal investigator for a full board protocol. You received a reminder that your protocol is up for renewal by April 30th, 2026. Your protocol expires June 30th, 2026. The IRB meets tomorrow, April 14th, and again on April 28th. When is the last day, PI, to submit your status report for your full board protocol? 1 working week before your protocol expires, April 23rd, 2026. 1 working week before the IRB's last April meeting, April 21st, 2026. Or 1 working week before the protocol expires, June 23rd, 2026. Or since you'll be ready to close it by June 17th, a closure report can simply be submitted on June 12th, 3 working days before it expires. We'll go over the answer after all 3. So the third question is that you are completing a status report for your protocol, which is due for renewal in 2 weeks. The IRB wants to know how many participants the study has enrolled. And as the principal investigator, you have access to signed informed consent documents in Box. Your student investigator scans new forms in every week. So it's possible that there are some participants who have enrolled in the last week that you haven't seen yet. However, the protocol is approved for 200 participants, and you have 200 signed informed consent documents. What, if anything, is the monitoring issue here? We're at almost half of the total participants responding. So I know that probably not everybody is directly at their computers right now. So might just be listening. So I will end the poll in just a moment. We'll go over the responses. Okay, we're at 2/3, which seems like a good critical mass. So for the first one, where you've got an expired study, um, unfortunately, you will not be able to file an amendment to extend your study end date. That protocol has already expired. Um, as I mentioned, Koali shuts it down. Once that protocol expires, that's it. It's done. There's nothing anybody can do about it. So you'll want to contact your principal investigator for guidance and also contact the participant to reschedule them. You have to stop your study if your protocol expires. The check the data you've already collected, maybe you can close it piece was meant to be a little tricky because in order to check your data, you are conducting the study. If you're accessing identifiable information or information that may still be coming in, that counts as conducting your study. But you've already expired, so you already have to stop. Moreover, your option to close out your protocol after it has expired is not available. There are extra steps you have to go to close your protocol if it expires, which is more work for you. So please don't do that. Close your protocol before it expires if it is in fact ready to close. And then run the participant explaining that you'll get them a new consent form. Thank you for not selecting that option. Okay, principal investigator for the full board protocol. And your protocol is up, needs to be renewed by April 30th. The IRB meets on April 14th and April 28th, and the protocol expires on June 30th. So when is your status report due? 1 working week before your protocol expires. So April 23rd, 2026. That would be too late to get it on either agenda for the upcoming IRB meetings. 1 working week before the IRB's last April meeting, April 21st, 2026, is the correct answer. 1 working week before the protocol expires. Too late. Once you miss a renewal, that protocol automatically moves to an expired state, even though your expiration date might be into the future, because your protocol needed renewal before it could even reach that expiration date. And again, be ready to close it by June 17th, so I can submit a closure report by June 12th. That's plenty of time before the June 30th expiration date. Again, that protocol will have already expired. So unless you were ready to close it by April 21st, 2026, you would be out of compliance with the renewal requirements. The PI receives specific instructions on renewing full board protocols. Those instructions are different than the instructions we provide for the vast majority of our protocols because we have so few of those protocols, and they are tied to meeting dates rather than the dates of the protocol. Because the IRB meets the second and fourth Tuesday of every month during the academic year, we make sure to supply people with instructions for that starting 35 days in advance of the renewal date. The third one, completing a status report for the protocol due in 2 weeks. The IRB wants to know how many participants the study has enrolled, and as the PI, I review the informed consent documents. But it's possible that there are new informed consent documents that I missed. So I might be missing some information, but the protocol is approved for 200 participants. We have 200 signed consent forms. Is there an issue here? The issue that 50% of folks chose correctly is that the student was not told to stop recruitment at the last available monitoring point. So if there are 200 informed consent documents in the box folder where these things are stored and more time has passed, the student should have been told to stop recruiting once the accrual goals were met. It's possible that you need more study participants. That's something that you all should communicate about and discuss the need for an amendment prior to recruiting more folks. It is not, though, again, meant to be kind of tricky. It's not an issue that you don't have real-time access to informed consent documents. That is okay. As I mentioned, delegation is allowed, but accountability cannot be delegated. If you told me that you were monitoring informed consent documents once a week when your student uploaded them, I would say that sounds like a really wonderful monitoring plan. And so it's not an issue that you don't have them like directly in real time. The issue is that within your ability to monitor, you haven't picked up on the fact that you've hit an endpoint in your study. And maybe you need more participants, but maybe you're done. That is something that the study team should have communicated about as your monitoring plan would have accounted for. So finally, I will share some resources, and all of these will be shared on our website. If you visited our training website, you'll see that we have the slides, the recording, but also some helpful documents that tie to the topic of the training. And so we'll list these documents as part of the helpful resources for research teams who are interested in PI responsibilities. So here we have the USU policy on various things. So the policy regarding IRB oversight, the policy for research in general, as well as the academic freedom and professional responsibility policy, which articulates some specifics about the relationship between a mentor and their mentees. We have links to our standard operating procedures that go over what researchers are responsible for writ large, and then the difference between what a PI is responsible for and what a researcher is responsible for. We link to the USU School of Graduate Studies Handbook. This is a space where the School of Graduate Studies communicates its expectations for mentoring graduate students in particular. And then we have the links that are more work. So these are links that you would use if your study expired and you did not close it on time. You're going to have to file one of these status reports no matter what, whether you're going to replace the protocol or whether you're thinking it was ready to be closed out. But they do ask for more information than a renewal or a closure form within Kowali. So whenever you can, make sure that you're closing those studies out before the expiration date. Otherwise, it's a lot more hassle for you to close those out on the back end. And so with that, I have not been checking the Q&A. So I want to make sure to pop over there now. I don't see any questions, but I'm happy to take some. And I'll just go ahead and move on to the last slide. Really appreciate you taking the time to attend. And if you have any topics that you'd like to see us train on in the fall 2026 semester, please go ahead and use that QR code or just go to irb.usu.edu, hit the submit feedback button. And when we meet over the summer to plan what the fall semester's trainings look like, then we will make sure that we address all of the requests that we receive. I still don't see any questions, but so I'll just go ahead and give you 5 minutes of your day back. Thanks so much for attending, and we'll look forward to seeing you at this training series in the fall.